Hello, hi everyone. It's been a little while since I've done a live in the group, so I am very happy to be with you again today. I actually wanted to do the live in the garden today, but then the day is kind of grey and miserable, so I'm back to my normal little veranda spot here, and I actually wanted to do a live to answer Eve's question. You might have seen Eve's question in the group about her 3-year-old. So if you haven't seen it, I will read it again. And I actually wanted to give her a live answer for this one because it's a great question, and I feel we can develop on it a bit and give her a little bit of tips. So here is her questions. Let me read it out to you so that you know what we are talking about today. So she says, our 3-year-old is very vocal and very attached to me. When his little brother was born nearly 8 months ago, he was extremely jealous. And while he's much more himself again, now he has recently been telling me that he is jealous when I kiss his dad or spend time with him. Obviously, he feels what he feels, and we all need to accept that and let him go through it. However, he's also learned to say mean things. This morning, he told my husband that he would flush him down the toilet. He's told him he wants him out of the family. Not nice. I'm not really sure how to address this. I've told him that it's not acceptable to be mean and that he needs to use his manners, even when he is cross. But unlike physical behaviors like hitting or throwing toys, I can't actually stop him from speaking his mind. And I don't want to make it into more of an issue than it should be. So first of all, thank you very much, Eve, for asking this question, because I really think that a lot of parents go through it and they might not dare ask the question. So by asking it, you're actually helping and supporting yourself, but also other parents at the same time who are going to get some tips. So great of you to be asking the question. Thank you so much. Also, I wanted to point out a few great points from your questions that I've noticed, which I think are absolutely awesome. So first of all, you do mention that your 3-year-old was very jealous of the arrival of his baby brother and that he had a lot of difficulties to deal with it. But that he did, because he's now back to his normal self and he's kind of learned to accept it and to deal with the emotions that it was bringing him. So this is a great thing because it shows us that he has develop some tools to actually be able to handle it, which is not always easy for a toddler, let's be honest. I mean, 3 years old, seeing like a baby brother come, it's not always that easy. So he has managed that transition, which is really great. So that's a first point. Secondly, I do love that you recognize his need to be able to experience his own emotions and his need to be able to process it on his own. So this is really great for you to be able to allow him that space. And a third thing that I did notice is that you actually, and you do express it in your question, that you don't want to stop him from speaking his mind and expressing what he wants. Even though you feel that it is mean. But I think that this is where your kind of confusion comes in, because you're like, now I would like him to be able to express what he wants to say, but then when he says mean things, I'm not so cool with this. So but how now do I deal with this? So let me give you a few tips on how I think you could handle the situation. So obviously we all have our parenting styles and our way to handle things. But I have a feeling this might, because of the comments that you've posted before and of the things you have said, that it might fit with the way that you parent your children. So, but any feedback, of course, will be great. So if you can just let me know how it feels for you afterwards. So here are my tips. So first, I will share with you a few things that maybe would be best to avoid, and then I will share with you some things that you could do in those situations. So first thing that I would avoid is to avoid judgment. Just sort of, when you say that his words are mean and not nice, that is a judgment. Now, it may be true. It may very well be true that when he says that he wants his dad out of the family, that is not a nice thing to say. But when you express that to him, that is still a judgment. And when we judge people, people tend to react and to sort of block it. Think about it, like whenever somebody says something judgmental to you, our first reaction would be, oh, of course not, I'm not like that. So this is like a very normal, natural reaction. So whenever you kind of voice out that it is mean or it is not nice, then it will get him to actually resist you and react to you rather than the contrary. And this is something that we do want to avoid. A second thing that we want to avoid is demands. Avoid demands. For example, for you demanding from him that he use his manners might also get him into resistance. When we demand something as parents, well, a demand will actually get you one of two reactions. So either the child complies to the demand or the child does not comply to the demand. So whenever we demand something and the child complies to the demand, then he may feel forced to actually do what you say because he might be scared of punishment or consequences, but then it doesn't allow him to actually process the emotion and to actually get to the bottom of it. So that's the one part which is not the greatest. And then on the second hand, if your child actually does not comply to the demand, then you get into a power struggle because you are requesting something from him. He doesn't want to give it to you, which he may very well not want to, because we cannot control human behavior. I mean, in any relationship, we cannot control the other person. So they always have a choice to say no. But then the only choice you have when your child doesn't comply is to escalate things, and which can kind of turn nasty or not end up the way you want. So this is something I would completely avoid if you don't want to get into a power struggle and into sort of a dynamic where things escalate. And the third thing that I actually thought I would mention, even though it's not in your question, so I'm not sure if it will apply to you, it may very well not apply to you, but this is something that I see parents do quite a bit. I do it sometimes, even though I really try not to. So it's something I thought I would still mention. It is to avoid shaming. A lot of time we will go into statements like, you shouldn't be feeling that way. You shouldn't say things like that. How can you talk like that? And every time we actually go into those kind of statements, it brings back sort of feelings of shame into the children. Like, you know, like I really like why am I so mean? I shouldn't be mean. So, and in the long term, this is not really great for building up our identity and our self-esteem and things like that. So this is like a third thing that I would really try not to go into when this kind of situation arises. So 3 things to avoid. So judgment, avoid demands, and avoid shaming. So now these are the things that we actually want to try not to do. But then what can we do? Because I really do feel that as parents, we have this role and we can be a guide and a support to our children while they go through their emotions. So we don't have to leave them go through those emotions alone. We can really be there to support them. So there are things that we actually can actively do to help them go through those. And I really did love also Remco's suggestions in your question in the comments, where he said that you could share your feelings with him and tell him about when you are jealous and how you deal with it. And this is going to give him some clues as to how to react and well, how to deal with his own feelings of jealousy, which is absolutely great. So here are a few other things that I think you can do, like in the situation when things happen and he is being jealous and feeling those things. So first of all, you can just notice what is happening without judgment. So you can just state in a very neutral way what you see happen. So you can say things like, oh, I can see that you are upset when I kiss daddy. So you're not putting like a judgment or a value on it, if it's wrong or if it's not wrong, or if it's right. So you're just stating things as you see. You can say, I can tell by your face and your words that you are upset. You can also say, I hear that you would like to share the way you feel with me. And when you do that, it actually can allow him to expand on what he's feeling and help him understand them a little bit better. And while you're also doing that and noticing things, you can also validate and empathize with his emotions. I hear how difficult this is for you. You seem angry that dad is having my attention. Putting words on what you kind of feel that he is feeling is validating his emotions. It's kind of making him feel heard. Because a lot of time when we try to block it, our children, like, they don't feel heard, and it doesn't allow them to process those emotions. So when, like, if you can just state what you're saying and validate his emotions, it allows him to actually now process those emotions and go a little bit more into what he is feeling. So he might answer things like, yes, I'm not happy, it doesn't, I don't like it, and things like that. But this will allow him to actually understand himself a little better. So once you've done that, you can also afterwards share your own feelings and needs in that moment. Because just one thing that I forgot to mention, when you do validate, like a lot of time, parents don't go into this validation because we feel that when we validate, we actually agree. So by validating what he's feeling, you're not actually agreeing with the way he's reacting. You're not agreeing that he's right to want to flush dad down the toilet, for example. You are just being present there with him. So once you've actually noticed and validated and empathized with him, you can actually share your own feeling and needs in that moment. And that's when you are going to let him know that you're not quite happy with him wanting dad out of the family, for example. You can say things like, I'm surprised to hear you say things like that, or any feeling or emotion that you may have. It may be I'm surprised, I'm sad, I'm concerned, I'm confused, to hear you say things like that, because then it will show him that when he has a reaction, it causes some emotions in you too that you are having. And you can also express your needs. You can say, it's important to me that dad is part of his family too. You can say things like, you know, mum loves dad just the way mum loves you, and it's important for mum to actually show that to dad. So this shows him that sort of apart from him, there is also a world that exists and that has needs. And it's done in a way where he can actually hear it because you've actually been there and been present for him before expressing that. So once you have done that, like a last step that I like to do is to actually brainstorm with him some of the reaction that he may have. You can just say, you know, like, shall we think of some of the ways that can work for you and for me when you feel jealous? So, like, what could we do? And here the key is that you find some reactions that are okay for both of you, that work for both of you. So, for example, if, you know, as a solution, if he tells you, well, you can just stop kissing dad and I will be happy. Well, that doesn't work for you because it's also important that you show your affection to your husband. So then you can tell him, yes, that would be a solution, but I'm not sure I'm okay with that because I really would need to actually show dad that I love him too. So just try and brainstorm and discuss and just try and see if you can come up with something. Try and let him come up with some solutions, even if they are not right solutions and they don't work for both of you. It helps him start thinking about it in sort of away from the emotion itself, and it will help him process that emotion for himself. And then if you really, like, if he can't come up with something that both of you can agree with, you can always make some suggestions. So, for example, you can tell him, well, maybe when you see me kiss dad, it means that you want a kiss too. So maybe, you know, how about when you see me kiss dad, you ask me for a kiss too? Or something like that. Sometimes it's like just some silly little things, but it just helps them process what they are feeling and put words in it. And I think the key is not really getting to a solution, but it's getting this thinking process going so that when it happens, when this kind of situation happens, he knows that he's got that space where he can actually process his emotions, talk with you. He's allowed to actually feel what he's feeling and get to the bottom of it. So here you go. I hope that helps. If you do have any questions about it or would like to comment on it, please do. I'm happy to check back afterwards and see if you have any questions. Of course, this doesn't only apply to Eve, because I know many parents go through the same problems and the same dilemmas. So if it does apply to you too, and you've had the same issue with your kid, and this is helping, or even if you'd like sort of some more details on each step, so do post them in the comments, and I'll oh, Pam is saying loving this. Oh, thank you very much, Pam. It's great to hear. I hope it is helpful. So yeah, also if you do have any other questions, I'm very happy to either attend to them in the group, and you also have the support of all the other moms in the group. There's lots of wisdom in this group, so you can just post them there, or I can do a live on your question like I'm doing now on Eve's questions. If you don't want to be named, you can send me your question by personal message, and I can also attend to those in a live session, or put them in the group for you. But it's absolutely fine, because whenever you are asking a question, you are also helping other parents who may be going through the same issues but don't actually dare asking the questions. So, ooh, got a fly going. So yeah, here was my answer to that question. So it was actually great being with you again, and I hope I will be doing more lives. It's sometimes a bit tricky time-wise and stuff, but I will try to actually get back into the habit of going into more live sessions if I can. So wishing you all a great day and a great end of week. I'll see you in the group. Bye.